Can a piece of steel change the destiny of a historic team, and one of the best drivers of all time? Because Ferrari has just revealed its secret weapon for 2026, and Lewis Hamilton's reaction says it all. Lewis Hamilton did not come to Ferrari to continue his career. He came to complete it. After years of success with Mercedes, breaking records and lifting trophies, his decision to join the Scuderia was a statement of intent. It wasn't about money or visibility. It was personal. Hamilton, the most successful driver of the hybrid era, was pursuing something that only Ferrari could offer him: sporting immortality. Winning with Ferrari is not the same as winning with any other team. It's touching history, redeeming Enzo, writing a page in red ink and gold. But reality hit him with unexpected harshness. The 2025 season was an abyss disguised as an opportunity. From the first stages of the calendar, it was clear that the SF25 was not a winning car. Its performance was inconsistent, traction in slow corners was poor, and tire degradation was exasperating. Even on circuits where Ferrari has traditionally shown, such as Monaco or Monza, the car could barely fight with the middle zone of the grid. Hamilton's face after each classification said it all. There was frustration, yes, but above all there was surprise. I didn't understand how a team with so much talent, with so many resources, could be so disoriented. For a driver of his caliber, not finishing on the podium for an entire season was more than a statistic. It was an existential question. His image as a champion seemed to fade amid red flags, failed strategies, and poorly chosen wheels. In every simulator session, in every technical meeting, Hamilton pressed for answers. And with each race he encountered new questions. The car did not respond to his aggressive style, even after adapting its driving to Charles Leclerc's progressive braking method, a technique that required releasing the accelerator earlier and lengthening the braking to compensate for the lack of downforce. He tried everything. Nothing worked. At the heart of Ferrari's new car for 2026, the SF26, beats an idea that defies decades of technical evolution in Formula One. An idea that, when revealed to Lewis Hamilton, provoked a reaction that few have seen in him since his first years at McLaren: pure amazement. The man who has seen it all, who has driven the most dominant cars in recent history, was surprised by what the Italian engineers were attempting. Because Ferrari has decided, without half measures, to break the unwritten rules of the category. For more than 30 years, the cylinder heads of Formula One engines have been made of aluminum. Not because someone decreed it, but because the logic of the competition demanded it. It is lighter, easier to work with, more thermally efficient under normal conditions. But in 2026, the regulations change the conditions of the game. The minimum weight of the power unit increases from 120 to 150 kilograms. And Ferrari detected a crack there, a possibility. If the limit goes up, then lightness can be sacrificed in exchange for structural strength. And thus the most controversial idea of Project 678 was born, manufacturing the cylinder heads in steel. That it's not just a choice of material. It is a declaration of war on conventional thinking. Steel can withstand much higher combustion temperatures and pressures than aluminum. Why does that matter? Because in 2026, all teams will be required to use 100% sustainable fuels, with different ignition characteristics, more difficult to exploit. Ferrari is building an engine that not only withstands these new conditions, but uses them to its advantage. More pressure means more energy. And more energy, if controlled, means more power. The team's internal simulations suggest a gain of about 13 horsepower over traditional solutions. In an environment where tenths define championships, this could translate into a quarter of a second per lap. In simple words, a world of difference. The most shocking thing for Hamilton was discovering the level of commitment behind it. For months, Ferrari developed two versions of the engine in parallel. One with aluminum cylinder heads, like Plan B, and another with the revolutionary steel design. Only when reliability tests conducted in collaboration with the firm AVL confirmed that steel was not only viable but superior, did the team decide to scrap the traditional design entirely. It was an all-or-nothing bet. There was no middle ground. For a driver like Hamilton, who has lived through the era of maximum efficiency, this audacity represented a breath of fresh air. It wasn't just about having a competitive car. It was about having a team that dared to innovate, to take calculated risks. That, for him, is the essence of Ferrari. And that's what convinced him that the suffering of 2025 might not have been in vain. During his visit to Maranello in October 2025, Hamilton had the opportunity to listen live to the first firing of the new engine. It wasn't just a different sound. It was a deeper roar, more contained, but with a deep vibration. A timbre that transmitted contained power. He did not say it publicly, but he stayed for several minutes listening to the test bench. Not like a pilot, like someone who is watching their destiny begin to take shape. Upon leaving that room, he asked to see Enrico Galtieri, the person in charge of the project. There was no speech. He just shook her hand and said, "This is what we needed. This engine, with its steel cylinder heads, is more than a technical solution. It is a symbol. It represents a philosophy of rupture, of reinvention. And in the case of Hamilton, it also represents a new opportunity. The opportunity to show that he has not yet said his last word in Formula One, that he can still lead the next great revolution. If steel and cylinder heads was Ferrari's first blow to convention, the complete redesign of its hybrid system is the second assault. Quieter, perhaps, but just as disruptive. Because in 2026, Formula One will change not only in its sound, but in its soul. And Ferrari, with its Project 678, wants to be the architect of that change. Removing the MGU-H and tripling the power of the MGU-K is not simply an adaptation. It's a radical redesign of how a car generates, stores, and releases energy. And for Lewis Hamilton, who has been one of the great dominators of the hybrid era, this opens a new dimension of possibilities and challenges. The new regulation stipulates that the engines must produce around 400 kilowatts from the thermal block and up to 350 kilowatts from the electrical part. This completely transforms the power balance on the track. Until now, the combustion engine dominated with 80% of the power delivery. Starting in 2026, it will practically be a game of equals. Half combustion, half electricity. The pilot will no longer be a simple accelerator manager. You will become an energy strategist, forced to synchronize every braking, every acceleration with the logic of the electrical system. And that completely changes the driving style. For Ferrari, this change represented a risk, but also an opportunity. For the past 2 years, the Scuderia had been criticized for its lack of sophistication in energy management. Their hybrid systems were powerful, yes, but inefficient in recovery and delivery. However, Project 678 sought to correct that at the root. And it did so with a next-generation battery, more compact, lighter, and with a revolutionary thermal management system that allowed the rear architecture of the car to be redesigned. Lewis Hamilton witnessed that change at the Maranello facilities. During private simulator sessions in November 2025, he immediately noticed a fundamental difference. The MGU-K's power delivery was not only more intense, but much longer. It was no longer that brief, almost fleeting impulse that lasted a few seconds when exiting slow corners. It was a continuous, sustained acceleration that transformed the way of attacking a lap. And that, for someone who masters like few others the art of taking advantage of every centimeter of traction, was like giving a new brush to a master painter. The new system also changed the braking approach. With the disappearance of the MGU-H, all the energy recovery work now falls to the MGU-K and the rear brakes. This forces the pilot to rethink where and how he decelerates. Hamilton understood it right away. His experience with complex hybrid systems, especially in Mercedes' golden years, gave him a critical advantage in the break-in phase. While other drivers were still searching for the balance between the brake pedal and electric hold, he was already using the simulator to explore new trajectories, taking advantage of regeneration in corners where it was not previously considered. Ferrari also completely redesigned the radiator system, using smaller, more efficient heat exchangers, freeing up space for more aggressive aerodynamics. This allowed drag to be reduced without sacrificing cooling, a technical achievement that impressed Hamilton himself, who was accustomed to working with high-level aerodynamic departments. In his words, the compactness of this system gives you freedom. It gives you freedom to attack the court in a different way, to be more aggressive. Project 678 MGU-K is performing even above internal expectations. Engineers describe its behavior as predictable, robust, and highly efficient. And although there is still work to be done on full integration with the chassis, the signals from the test benches and the wind tunnel are unequivocally positive. This is where the true potential of the SF26 emerges. Not like the fastest car in a straight line. Not like the one with the most downforce in fast corners, but as the most energetically balanced car. And in an era where every kilowatt counts, that could be the difference between a victory and a lost lap. Leave me in the comments what you think about all this.